explore in some detail what the view model is, how it works, how it fits in with the activity lifecycle, how we give it to activities and fragments. But before getting into all of that, let's just go ahead and make one, see how easy it is to create the file, before thinking about what types of code to put in there. I've got open the two main screens of our app, the main activity file and the tasks fragment. So far in this course, we've been working with activities and fragments, whether that's an app that does all activities, moving from activity to activity, or whether that's an app with a single activity and then multiple fragments inside it. Both are valid approaches to building out the user interface of the app. The important point is that activities and fragments, so far, these are the screens in the app. This is where we put the buttons and text and things like that. Activities and fragments. And so I'd like you to think of activities and fragments as the view of the app. And the type of code we should be putting there are things: our view binding, setting adapters, setting text. These are the type of things you could and should be doing in the view. So then, what's another type of place we can put our code? And in modern Android best practices, the next most useful place to start putting our code is in a thing called a view model. Let's not get too bogged down by the term right now. Let's instead go ahead and make a couple of these view models. Typically speaking, you're going to be wanting one view model per screen, one view model per activity, and one view model per fragment. They are screen level files where we can start to put some of our code, some of our non-UI logic. So on the left, I have the main activity in the UI folder, and I have the tasks fragment in the subfolder tasks UI/tasks. We'll start with the main activity first. We will right click on the UI folder where main activity is and do new Kotlin file, and we'll call this main view model. The convention is to remove the word activity, remove the word fragment, so main view model, tasks view model. I highly recommend you stick to that convention. So this is our main view model. And the good news for us to make a view model that behaves properly, that behaves like a view model should, in modern versions of Android Studio, we don't need any new dependencies. It comes by default with the standard libraries you get when you make a new project. All we need to do is extend a class called view model. Capital V, capital M. You can see there from the AndroidX.lifecycle package. And this is a class rather than an interface, so we need the class curly braces. And that's it. That's how you define and start working with a new view model. So we have main activity and main view model. I'll click on the tasks fragment, and I'll click the target button. So I'm now inside the tasks folder, and I'll right click here and do new Kotlin class, and this is now the tasks view model, dropping the word fragment. So tasks fragment and tasks view model, a new class that extends the view model class. And that's it. So for main activity, we have a view model, and for tasks fragment, we have a view model. I'll just head back to the main view model for now. So the question then becomes, what sort of things should we be putting in the view model? And what sort of things should we not be putting in the view model? Well, in very simple terms, you should put as much of your code as you can that is not to do with the user interface. So we can't have any code about setting text on buttons or text views. We can't have any code like setting adapters on recycler views. That is all user interface code. These view models, they don't really work well with anything to do with the Android view system. But then everything else should go in here. So let's think about our app. It's a to-do app, and we use a database and a DAO, database access object, the tasks DAO. So we have code to add tasks, to fetch tasks. That kind of code should be in the view model, and certainly out of the activities and out of the fragments. So let's look at main activity. So eventually we're going to want to remove the task DAO and the database from this file altogether and just have the view model instead. And a quick way to see where any of your class properties are used in your file, this is a little shortcut that I like to use, is you can comment out the properties like this, and then you'll see errors for where they're used. And as we can see, there's only one place where we even access the database or the DAO, and that's in our Save button. When they click the Add Task button, a dialog pops up, and when they save the task in that dialog, we create task. So we should have a function on our view model called create task. So let's do that. So we will do a function called create task, and we won't let it accept a task object. We'll create the task in the view model. Let's instead accept a title and an optional description. So we'll have a title string and a nullable description string. And then we'll put a comment to say, create the task here. In fact, we can even go ahead and copy the task creation into here. And we will replace the edit text for the raw strings. So title equals title, description equals description. Okay, so now rather than creating the task, we will save the task here. Okay, this is the kind of function, this is the kind of thing that should go in the view model and be taken out of the views. The activities and fragments shouldn't be concerned with making Kotlin objects, data classes, saving to databases. They should only really be concerned with user interface things like setting text, adding click listeners, setting adapters, showing dialogues, that kind of thing. So that will do as a function on our main view model. Let's look at the tasks fragment. Again, we have our task DAO here, but really later on we don't want the task fragment to be concerned with the database or the task DAO. So we'll comment out this property, so those 3 lines, control slash, command slash, and we can see there's 3 places where we access it: fetching the tasks, updating the tasks, and deleting the tasks. So we'll go and make these same functions on our view model. So we have fetch tasks, we have update task, which should accept a task because we get the task from our click listener on the adapter on the recycler view. So that's fine. And we should also have delete task, again with the task. And then inside these functions, we will write the code once we figure out how to give our tasks view model access to the database or the task DAO. But that's all you need to do to start making new view models. Write a new class, give it a name. The convention is to remove the word fragment or activity, but to keep the first part the same. So tasks fragment will have a tasks view model. Main activity will have a main view model. And then we just need to extend the view model class. If I control click, command click, I can see scrolling up, it's an abstract class. Very important to extend that. That's how it hooks into all of the Android lifecycle stuff. And we'll cover that in a bit of detail in one of the next tutorials. So we've made the view models. We've started to add some of the code, or at least the functions. But we've got a couple of problems. Number one, how can we give the view model to the activity and the fragment? You might think we can just do this. The main view model equals a new main view model. And we could do that, but we would get none of the benefits of the view model, particularly relating to the lifecycle stuff. So that's actually no good. So I'm going to completely remove that line. So we need to figure out how we can properly instantiate a view model in an activity or a fragment to get the benefits, and specifically the lifecycle benefits of the view model. And we'll be covering that concept shortly. And the other thing we need to do is also figure out how to give the database and the task DAO to the view model. After all, if I go to the main activity and put those lines back in for now, well, we're giving the database context. But if I just copy this line of code and try and paste that inside the view model, well, we have an error because a view model is not a context. And we don't have anything like require context or anything useful like we do in fragments. So that's going to be another problem. I'll just undo that line. And so in the next tutorial, let's look in a little bit of detail from the documentation at how view models work, how they fit in with the lifecycle, before then figuring out how to correctly provide. In order to understand how view models work with activities and fragments, and specifically how they fit into the activity and fragment, and of course we have covered the activity lifecycle in detail in a previous section, I'm heading over to Google and I've done a quick search for Android view model, just in case you want to follow the link too and read it in more detail. And the link I am going to click on, and I recommend you have a read over sometime, is the one that says View Model Overview. So let's do this now. Look at the View Model Overview. Now there's a lot of stuff here, and some of the language might seem a bit confusing. So right now I'm going to show you the key highlights, explain it in simple terms before we head back to the project and apply some of it. So the View Model class is a business logic or screen level state holder. We talked about this a little bit in the previous tutorial. I said you typically have one view model per screen. And this idea of business logic, and that could be a kind of abstract and confusing term, you can think of it for now as not UI logic. Okay, so things like setting button text and click listeners would be UI logic. Working out how to save and retrieve tasks from a database, that's a bit more like business logic. So that kind of stuff goes there. It's at the screen level. We already know that. We can skip ahead. There's something here about view model benefits, and it says the alternative to a view model would be a plain class. Think of our input validator. Now that's okay because it's just a plain function you can call each time. But when it comes to holding onto stuff, holding onto state, holding onto things we want the screen to remember, well, it says this can become a problem as you navigate between activities and different destinations, because doing that will destroy the data unless we do some stuff with the saved instance state. Those tutorials were quite a while ago, but we did talk about saved instance state. We talked about whenever the activity is destroyed, like when you go from activity to activity, or when you rotate the phone, you have to do some fancy things to save it and restore it. Well, View Model makes this a lot simpler. It provides a convenient API, or application programming interface, the long version. But I would say it provides a convenient way to store, to persist your data. And we'll see how in just a moment. We skip ahead to this word scope, some more confusing terminology, which I'll try to explain in a simple term. When you instantiate a view model, and we'll see how to do that in a moment, you pass it an object that implements the view model store owner interface. Wow, that sounds a bit confusing. Well, if I click on the view model store owner interface link, I'll do that in a new tab. What's a view model store owner? A fragment is. An activity is. So we can think of our activities and our fragments as the view model store owner. Don't worry about the word store, just focus on the fact that an activity and a fragment can store, can hold on to an instance of view model in a very special way. So then our activities and fragments are the view model owner, or the view model store owner. Don't worry about that word store. The key thing is it is then scoped to the lifecycle of the view model store owner. That is to say, the view model is kept alive for the whole lifecycle of the owner, the activity, the fragment. It's scoped. It's kept in sync with the fragment and the activity's lifecycle, the entire lifecycle. And that is huge. To make this make sense to you, I'm going to go on the right and click the lifecycle of a view model, and you'll see the magic of a view model when I do. Scrolling down, zooming in. So casting our minds back to the activity lifecycle section, activities, and then fragments by extension, have this whole complicated lifecycle on create, on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, on destroy, before eventually finishing. Loads of things that are happening all the time whenever you go from activity to activity, whenever you rotate the phone, whenever you go to the background and come back. Well, the view model's scope, meaning the availability of our view model, it lasts for all of this. It stays around in memory. The activity of the fragment stores it away, and irrespective of all these activity lifecycle or fragment lifecycle functions, your view model will remain. It will even remain when you go to an activity and then come back to it. It will even remain when an activity is cleared, but then recreated. And it's the perfect place to put our business logic, as things you might be doing like updating tasks, editing things, all that kind of non-UI logic. It will live on no matter what happens with the activity lifecycle. So don't be confused by some of the language here about scope and store owners. You can think of a view model as a thing that lives for as long as an activity or fragment might need it. And the same view model will still be there waiting for you when you go back to a fragment, when you go back to an activity. And that is incredibly powerful. So then let's scroll up a little bit to see the kinds of ways that we can give view models to our activities and fragments. So scrolling up. So we see here this example of a view model, the dice roll view model. Don't worry about the UI state. Don't worry about these flows and things like that. We're going to cover flow in this section. But we have a plain function, roll dice. And just having a quick look at this, what they've called business logic, we can see there's some non-UI stuff like random integers, dice values, number of rolls +1, just plain Kotlin logic. And they put that inside a view model by creating a new class, extending the view model class. We did that in the last tutorial. So this is all mostly recap. It's this bit in the activity that I want you to look at. The way the view models work is they are created for the first time, the very first time an activity or fragments on create is created. So when the activity comes alive, the view model comes alive. And the key thing here is that recreated activities receive the same view model instance created by the first activity, the first time it's made. So you will always get this same instance. It is kept in memory. Now, there's a by view models syntax that we're going to use because it's very, very easy. It's only available to us in Kotlin, so we're going to add one dependency in just a moment to make this by view models thing available to us. I just want to show you the Java version, because in showing you the Java version, it will show you what this by view models syntax is doing under the hood. I'll go to Java. So without that useful by view model syntax, you'd have to make a new view model provider, giving the activity or the fragment as the context. So view model provider, and then this activity or this fragment, and then dot get, and then the view model class. It's a bit cumbersome, it's a bit wordy. I always forget the syntax. And so Kotlin, trying to be helpful, they know this, and they give us this useful by view models thing. However, it's not available to us by default in most new projects, at least not at the moment anyway. So we have to add one dependency, this activity KTX dependency. And so we'll do this right now. We'll head back to the project. We'll add the activity KTX dependency. Gives us lots of useful things, useful shortcuts. And one of them is the by view models syntax. And that is the way to give view models to our fragments and our activities. So there's a quick overview there of the life cycle of a view model, the fact that it is scoped to an activity or fragment, and the fact that it lives on throughout all of the life cycle and is only eventually cleared when the activity or fragment is totally destroyed and finished. Okay? So back to our project. I'm going to head over to the build file. So in the app folder, the app build.gradle.kts file. Now you could go ahead and Google for yourself Android activity-ktx dependency to find this. To save you the time, I'm just going to copy and paste it already. So I'm going to do Control-V, Command-V. So the dependency that you need to type is implementation, and then brackets, then speech marks, androidx.activity, colon, activity-ktx. And it doesn't really matter what version. If you go incredibly new, then you might get out of sync if you have an older project like me. You guys might have a newer version of the project than myself. So you can do whichever one it suggests. I think 1.10 is the most modern now. We'll try and go for that, 1.10.0. That should be fine. So androidx.activity, that's the first part. Then colon. Then activity-ktx. This is the thing we need, the activity-ktx dependency. And then whatever version, I'm using 1.10.0. And once you've done that, click sync now. And wait a moment. Okay, that's finished for me. And now we can give the activities and the fragments the view model. So we'll go to main activity, and just above where we've got the binding, I'm going to do a class property rather than doing it in the onCreate function. I'll do private val. I'll just call it view model as we're already in main activity. I know it'll be the main view model. So view model of type main view model. And now we can do by view models. I'll do the all as one word. I won't do the Lambda version. I'll do this version here. the one that says no inline. I'll do that. It wants to do the diamond braces for the type, but I don't need to do that because I have it here. So I can actually delete the diamond braces, and it's just that. Simple as that. I'm going to copy that whole line. I'm going to paste it into the tasks fragment. I'll go ahead and paste this, change that to tasks view model, and I'll try and import this. Oh no, that's not working. I'll try and autocomplete it. Okay, I don't have by view models here. And why doesn't that work? Well, back to the dependencies. We have activity KTX for the activities, and we need the equivalent for the fragment. So implementation, speech marks, AndroidX dot fragment colon fragment KTX, and actually this will autocomplete for me. So 1.8.5, I'll go for that one. So you need the activity extension functions for the activity. You also need the fragment extensions for the fragment. So I'll sync now. And then now if I do ls, I get my view models function. I'll do this one, not the lambda, and I will delete the diamond brackets. And there you go. I'll just uncomment the task DAO for now to make sure that builds. That is how you give your view models to your activities and fragments. A nice shortcut in Kotlin is to add the activity extension functions, the fragment extension functions, these nice little shortcuts. Once you've added those libraries, then you can simply do by view models, and that will correctly scope the view model to your activity and fragment. It will link it so that it lives on throughout the activity and fragment lifecycle, making the same view model always available to the activities and fragments. So we've figured out how to make a view model by extending the view model class. We've figured out how to provide the view models to our activities and fragments with that useful by view models extension. However, we're not yet using the view models, and for them to be useful, our view models are going to need the task DAO or the database. And so in the next tutorial, we'll figure out a way that we can make the database and the task DAO available to our view models so we can remove all of this code